Desperate for change in Washington, the American people turned out in force to elect Barack Obama President of the United States. With Barack Obama focused on moving the country forward, there existed a very real danger that crimes committed by the Bush administration would go uninvestigated. Attorney General Eric Holder recently defied Obama's wishes to turn a blind eye to the past and has just appointed a special prosecutor to probe CIA wrongdoings under Bush. The Washington Post reported on August 25th that the inquiry is far from a full-blown criminal investigation, and he doesn't even know whether prosecutions of CIA employees will follow. Unfortunately, the CIA's torture of detainees is merely the tip of the iceberg. Your Truth sat down with Marjorie Cohen, constitutional lawyer, president of the National Lawyers Guild, and author of Cowboy Republic, to hear why American citizens should demand the Bush administration be held accountable for their crimes.
When I was a senior in high school, I took a course, which was like a seminar, from a professor who's like a college professor, and there were 3 students, and we read about U.S. foreign policy since World War II. And all of a sudden I realized that things were not quite as I had been taught, and I became much more critical of what our government had been doing. I start with the war of aggression against Iraq, which was illegal because it violated the United Nations Charter, and of course there were no weapons of mass destruction. There was no tie between al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein, and thousands and thousands of people, Americans and Iraqis, have lost their lives. Many more have been wounded due to an illegal war that never should have happened.
In 1994, Dick Cheney sat down for an interview in which he questioned the intelligence of invading Iraq and removing Saddam Hussein from power.
Do you think that the U.S. or UN forces should have moved into Baghdad?
No.
Why not?
Because if we'd gone to Baghdad, we would have been all alone. There wouldn't have been anybody else with us. It would have been a U.S. occupation of Iraq. None of the Arab forces that were willing to fight with us in Kuwait were willing to invade Iraq. Once you got to Iraq and took it over and took down Saddam Hussein's government, then what are you going to put in its place? That's a very volatile part of the world, and if you take down the central government in Iraq, you can easily end up seeing pieces of Iraq fly off. Part of it the Syrians would like to have to the west. Part of eastern Iraq the Iranians would like to claim, fought over for 8 years. In the north, you've got the Kurds, and if the Kurds spin loose and join with the Kurds in Turkey, then you threaten the territorial integrity of Turkey. It's a quagmire.
Fast forward to the arguments set forth by Bush administration officials in the months leading up to the 2003 Iraq invasion.
We found the weapons of mass destruction. We found biological laboratories.
Everybody knows that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
I have every reason to believe that the intelligence that we were operating off was correct.
No question, we have said that Saddam Hussein possesses biological and chemical weapons.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north.
The Bush administration set a policy at the top for torture and abuse of prisoners in U.S. custody. It wasn't just a few bad apples, but it was really a systematic policy for interrogating people with illegal methods. Keep in mind that some very high military leaders said that the 2 most threatening events that have led to the deaths of our soldiers in Iraq are, number 1, Guantanamo, and number 2, Abu Ghraib, that prison in Iraq where those photographs of the torture and abuse emerged from. And so when people in other countries see what we're doing in Guantanamo, see the torture that's taken place, the evidence of torture, that makes them hate the United States even more.
As the biggest watchdog of our freedoms, the American Civil Liberties Union works tirelessly to defend the rights of every American. After obtaining a Bush administration memo authorizing torture through a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, the ACLU released the following video.
In order for pain or suffering to rise to the level of torture, the statute requires that it be severe. The use of these procedures would not constitute torture within the meaning of the statute.
These 10 techniques are tension grasp,
walling.
It is the individual shoulder blades that hit the wall.
Facial slap.
The hand makes contact.
To induce shock.
Surprise.
Humiliation.
Cramped confinement.
The confined space is usually dark.
He may be placed in this box for up to 18 hours at a time.
18 hours. Damn. Wall standing.
Muscle fatigue.
Stress position.
Facial holes.
Sleep deprivation.
Even after 11 days of deprivation.
No psychosis or permanent brain damage occurred.
Insects placed in a confinement box.
We do not think the use of these boxes can be said to cause pain.
And the waterboard.
When the waterboard is used, the subject's body responds as if the subject were drowning.
The individual is bound.
The individual's feet are generally elevated.
A cloth is placed.
It completely covers the mouth and nose.
Airflow is slightly restricted.
Increased effort to breathe.
This effort produces the perception of suffocation.
Perception of drowning.
Rapid escalation in the use of these techniques culminating in the waterboard.
Which we acknowledge constitutes a threat of imminent death.
Based on the facts that you have provided.
In our view, we conclude that these acts neither separately nor as part of a course of conduct would inflict severe physical pain
or suffering.
Please let us know if we can be of further assistance.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Please.
Demand accountability
for those who authorize torture.
Restore the rule of law.
Other war crimes are the targeting of civilians, the massacre of civilians in various places in Iraq and Afghanistan, where people would go in, the U.S. military acting under rules set at the top, rules of engagement that created basically a free fire zone. Shoot at anything that moves. It doesn't matter if it's civilians, doesn't matter if it's women and children.
He could still be I can hear you, dude. Hey, was it worth it or what? Yeah.
Dude, look at, we fucked those people all the shit down there.
Dude, those two people.
You see who pulled up in the white car? I shot that dude in the white car, ran into the fucking building.
Hey, stay low though, stay low, no shit. Hey, Doc, that fucking sniper round hit right where you're at, dude.
Hey, Roger, hit it. Got him. Good. Second one. Hit the other one.
They say it's not safe. It is a scary place, but these Fallujah people insist on taking me somewhere. They want to show me something really gruesome. I counted 4 dead bodies. They were rotting. It looks like these people were shot while they were sleeping. It's very common for friends in Iraq to sleep in this way together. There are no signs of a gun battle, no bullet holes. I could not see any weapons, no obvious signs that they were insurgents. I'm told they were civilians.